The next presenter tonight is Thomas Shelley. Tom is a graduate of Bowling Green University. There he majored in geology and chemistry. Maybe his career as an undergraduate was as successful as the one just highlighted. His early career was as a chemist doing analytical work in industrial laboratories, and for 2 years he was a research technician at Cornell for a developmental molecular biologist. He worked for 17 years at Cornell University's Department of Environmental Health and Safety and held the position of chemical hygiene officer for 9 years. He's behind me, now retired. He volunteers with several sustainability-related organizations in Ithaca and Tompkins County. Tom, it's yours.
First of all, I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I realize it's a big sacrifice of an evening at home with the kids or whatever you would have been doing this evening. I also like to thank the organizers of the symposium tonight. You did a very effective and very carefully crafted job, regardless of the technical glitches, and we all have technical glitches of one kind or another. So, this is a picture from across the lake of the U.S. Energy salt site, gas storage site. Looks like a typical industrial salt type facility around the lake. We have several of them. You saw this before, the location of major subsurface salt deposits in the United States, and New York, of course, has quite a bit. They missed some of them, actually. They missed the Salinas up by Syracuse. Syracuse has a very large, used to be called Salt City, for the similar reason that Watkins Glen is called, one of the salt capitals of the world. There are a lot of underground LP gas storage facilities in the United States, and it shows you most of them are in Texas and the South and so forth, where you have a lot of the production of these materials. There's also natural gas storage in various underground facilities stored around the country. So you have liquefied petroleum gas, propane, liquid propane, and you have liquid natural gas. Two different things, okay? So this is natural gas storage, and once again we have a lot of natural gas storage in New York, including in this area, as we well know. There are lots of different types of salt facilities being mined around the world. Some of them are caverns type of facilities over here where you have traditional mining shafts and you have the room and pillar structure of the mines. That's what happens over in Lansing, New York, where we have Carbrill's big underground mining operations. Then you have different types of solution mines. This is one type of solution mine we sort of saw a graphic of before, cartoon of before. And there are various other types of mining from aquifers and that kind of thing as well. This is a typical room and pillar type of mining structure underground where you see big equipment moving things around, just digging the salt out of the earth, literally, and leaving pillars around to hold up the ceiling. Some of these facilities are used for liquid natural gas and other petroleum product underground storage facilities. The same graphic you saw from Jack earlier of the solution pockets in salt, cavities in salt. Another graphic, once again, of solution cavities. They're very irregular shaped often. Hard to engineer some of these things. Some of these cavities are actually storing light hydrocarbon products in, methane, LP gas and stuff. They're actually grouting the walls of some of these underground cavities. Be they the storage type here with the solution cavity or the mining room and pillar type. Now, let's go into some of the little problems. A few of the problems we've been discussing already all along. Handling accidents, spills of various kinds. People are human beings after all. People make mistakes. And even in industrial contexts that are supposedly highly controlled, people still make mistakes. And spills happen, period. It happens from poorly maintained equipment, equipment failure of one kind or another, human error or lack of training, and of course methane leaks are adding to our greenhouse gas burden, which we'll hear more about later. Fire and explosion hazards, we've seen a few instances of that already, impact on surface waters, contamination of aquifers and so forth, and then the brine pond issue itself. This is the Hutchinson, Texas natural gas underground storage event that happened a number of years ago, where gas migrated away from the storage site and detonated and destroyed a whole portion of Hutchinson, Kansas. So there have been some major instances. Once again, the instances that happen are very few and far between. And of the type of instances of underground storage, the most frequent accidents have happened in salt solution cavities as opposed to abandoned coal mines or some other type of situation where they might be storing light petroleum products underground. And then the infrastructure question is always there, of course. The trestle going over the gorge, allegedly according to the DEC, and the railroad agency are in good shape, so we don't have to worry about anything spilling off the trestle, apparently. And, you know, if you want to buy a bridge in Brooklyn, we have one for sale there, too, so. Okay. This is a typical brine pond. You saw a couple of photographs earlier. Very, you know, hopefully double layer of some sort of protective material there that keeps everything out of the ground. Looks kind of like a frac pit in a way, actually. Here is an actual graphic of the proposed location of brine pond here. You can see up is north. This is the big curve in the road there for 14A, I guess it is split off. And you see the extent marked out in the sort of white, irregular, oblong shape of the proposed 14-acre brine pond. Pretty good-sized structure. And you see its relationship to the lake and the local infrastructure that you're familiar with. There are quite a few different possibilities here of different things happening. You could have various geologic features come into play. Chances of this happening, once again, are really, really low, but many things are unknown that are underneath the ground. The whole area is very heavily fractured and jointed. There are 3 different separate sets of faults intersecting at different angles that underlay the Finger Lakes, the rocks underlaying the Finger Lakes. We are in a small earthquake zone, not very much, but a little bit of shaky stuff occasionally. There is some possibility of solution of LPG gas components, which could, in the long run, be detrimental. There's, of course, very little scientific work that's been done in terms of actually studying some of the potential damages from underground storage and solution of LPG. But I have one paper here, which is fairly new. It's from the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab and a group in Japan from 2004, and it's called Numerical Simulations of Leakage from Underground LP Storage Caverns. And they actually did test work in Japan on this particular topic, and it turns out that underground salt caverns are not infallible, as the industry would like us to think. There are a number of ways in which the hydrostatic pressure, which is basically what's keeping the LP gas in the salt formation, can be somehow broken down and dissipated, and the LP gas can actually escape. And when it escapes out of the salt formation, it can eventually evaporate and dissipate through the rock layers and into other areas nearby, other aquifers and stuff like that. So there is some possibility of that. Also, some of the components of LPG gas are also water soluble to a very slight extent. So you're going to have some water solution of some of these materials going off, not very much, but some. So there is an opportunity for migration through actually geological or geochemical processes. And of course, not around here so much, but in Ohio and some other states, they have a whole very serious problem with the collapse of mines. So the whole mining structures, coal mines and so forth that have been abandoned are collapsing, and big sinkholes forming and houses and stuff falling into the ground. So I'm doing something a little non-standard here. I'm going back to the computer. Preparation for the citizens group that is working locally. Walter Hang, who is an environmentalist and engineer who lives actually in Ithaca. Ultrahang developed for this group a report on the USGS site, which Energy now owns. And they did a variety of different things. And one thing his group did was to look up on all the various DEC data sets, various information about the site. And specifically, he was able to identify through DEC papers and so forth, a number of different incidents that have happened in the area. Sorry, I'm taking a while here. Did I go too far? I'm looking for a page number. Keep going? Here we go. Okay. So, what we have here are a number of different instances of spills and so forth. And there are a couple of different fairly indicative. Here's one. Brine pond has developed leak. Approximately 1/2 gallon per hour. Cut-off trench has been dug to ensure discharge. Cargill to perform testing, confirm leak rate, et cetera, et cetera. This was the Asco Brine salt pond that leaked. The smaller salt pond that exists already up the hill from the salt plant. And this was in 1997. And it's important to point out that does it meet the cleanup standards? No. A penalty recommended? No. So in this instance, there was no remediation, there was no penalty, nothing happened. It was just reported as a spill and essentially ignored. Here's a good one here. Brine pond filled by brine wells. Pond monitored by ESCO and NYSEG started to overflow approximately 400 hours. Brine wells shut down. An estimated 200 gallons of brine overflow ran into Small Creek, which feeds into Seneca Lake. No cleanup possible. So that's another instance of a spill there into the lake without any possibility of cleanup, of course. And let's see, 21, this one. There's another one here. SR noted heavy, fairly narrow band of petroleum sheen in Seneca Lake. They traced the sheen back, and it apparently was a spill of diesel or hydraulic fluid or something from a parked truck. So this is very typical of industrial situations where you have small quantities of fluids leaking occasionally into water bodies, causing pollution in the water bodies. Any more than 5 gallons of diesel is a reportable spill, so who knows how many spills actually happen and don't get reported. Here's a 20-gallon diesel spill, truck rollover up the hill at the intersection of 14 and 414A up there. Okay, road surface, no. One more and I'll stop. 25? Okay, here we go. Generator being rented by Esco Salt was being repaired by Auburn Armature. Valve was left open, a crankcase oil was lost from the unit. Oil flowed to stream, which flowed to Seneca Lake, 1,000 feet to the lake. So quite a bit of contamination there, 80 gallons surface contamination in the lake. Okay. So we have very good evidence in the past of very recent contamination and spills. And you know, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I've worked in places where there were spills all the time, and about 1 out of 10 spills gets reported to the boss. Most people don't want to get fired for screwing up, so they just don't report spills. Now, let's go back here again. So this is the theme tonight. Do we really want an industrial landscape in the Finger Lakes? There are visual impacts, transportation issues, noise, all these things we've discussed before. Is this the Watkins Glen we want? Or increasing industrialization of Watkins Glen? Once you get natural gas back into an area and you have a large quantity of industrial stock for chemical manufacture, fertilizer manufacture, you can have any number of large industries moving into the area to take advantage of the fact that a raw material is here that's heavily used by many different industries for a variety of purposes. Thank you very much. That's the end of my show.
Thank you, Tom.